Before we start today, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. If you are somebody who has left a review for this podcast, if you are someone who has shared this podcast, it's been such a beautiful ride. I am so grateful to know so many wonderful and amazing people, people who are willing to share their voice and share their experiences right here on Get Intentional with Mary. And grateful to you for being here, for listening. Whether you just started listening or whether you've been here since the very beginning, which hasn't been that long, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Now, let's do this. Welcome to Get Intentional with Mary. This podcast is for the busy woman who appreciates working hard and also playing hard. This show will focus on lifestyle, entrepreneurship, wellness, amazing interviews, and what every woman needs to live a successful and fulfilled life. Be sure to subscribe, share with friends, and leave a review. Now let's get on with today's topic. Today we are here with Dean. Dean is going to introduce himself, but I know him as a Zumba instructor, as a DJ, and as this beautiful soul that really has so much to share, which is why I wanted to interview him and bring his perspective on life and his experiences to you so that you also get to know him and apply some of these lessons of life to your own life. So, Dean, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone in your own words.
I don't know if I could do much of a better job than what you just did. I really appreciate that. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really, really excited to share many things with you and the audience. But as Mary mentioned, some of the things that I do, I'm a Zumba instructor. Mary and I teach together at Lifetime. I'm also a personal trainer and a DJ. Those are the things I do in my professional life. But generally, I'm somebody who loves people and loves to get the most out of people and help others as much as possible. That's really the core of who I am. And that's why I'm excited to be here on this platform, supporting a podcast that does just that, helps others, empowers others, and promotes just living a better quality of life in general. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for that. You and I had a great conversation a few weeks ago about mental health, and I don't know you that well, but there's something intriguing about you, I have to say, that it's almost like you carry this, and the reason why I say that is because sometimes you see people who externally, they look a certain way, they portray themselves a certain way, they have this quiet confidence about them, but you know that deep down they're very, very thought provoking, that they have these amazing qualities about them. And to me, that I found that intriguing, which is why I was so happy to be able to sit down and have a good conversation with you. We talked about mental health, like I said, and also how you've been able to overcome a lot of stuff in your life that went on. So I like to start off by going a little bit deeper and maybe going to sort of like the source of it all. So tell us
Yeah.
about your upbringing. We know that you're from New Jersey. So talk to us a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah. So born and raised in Lakewood, New Jersey, down by the Jersey Shore. I grew up with my parents. My parents are still thankfully around. They were very supportive and wanted the best for myself and my twin brother. So they always encouraged us to, do well in school, always gave us the resources to do the best we can, gave us the support in our childhood to strive to be whatever we could be. We tried different things. My parents were proactive in getting me involved in different sports or activities just to gain different experiences, and really thankful for being able to enjoy childhood of play, pleasure, growing up with a diverse group of people who taught me a lot about people in the world at a very young age. And I think that kind of set the tone for how I grew up and how I live my life to this day. So I'm really thankful for being in that environment and experiencing different things with different people. And yeah, and it's all led to where I am today in various ways. Things happen along the way, and here I am. But childhood was very, very good. I smile when I look back at it, and I'm very thankful for everything that happened to me.
I love that you smile when you look back at your childhood. A lot of people can't do that. There's a lot of heartache too that goes on with being a kid sometimes, and everybody has a different experience and a different upbringing. But what
Mhm,
I would love to know about you is your high school years, and you probably had all of these amazing goals for your life. So tell us a
mhm,
little bit about that, and what was it that you wanted to achieve as you grew? You had a twin. Because you were a twin, did
mhm.
you ever feel that you had to have similar goals in life?
I don't feel like we had to have similar goals in life, but there was definitely this sense of competition where both of us were kind of pinned against each other, whether it was, just within ourselves or with our classmates, teachers, coaches. We always, I think, in a way, I mean, we did the best we could, but I think there was something about, you know, being better than the other at X amount of things that was, a little bit of a pursuit of ours. So we were in high school. My brother and I shared a lot of the same experiences, but we're also our own people. So that was a bit annoying, just trying to be my own person, but continuously being grouped as a collective because of who I looked like or who was my family member. But my brother and I had different career goals in high school. When I was in high school, I decided that I was going to pursue medicine in college. Well, that I was going to go to college and I was going to pursue medicine. And he decided he wanted to pursue physical therapy, which is what he's practicing right now. And I'm not practicing medicine. So I guess,
Mhm.
there's a lot that happened in between that shaped me to be
Yeah.
who I am. And, yeah, that was high school.
Yeah. So there's a lot of competition that you talked about, because with siblings, there's always going to be that sort of competition. And I know that there are parents of twins who like to have them do the same things, dress the same way.
Hmm.
But in that, you're almost rebelling against that, and you want to be your own person. And you became your own person, which is beautiful and wonderful. Tell us
Hmm.
about the transition now from high school to college, and how it is that you wanted to go to medical school. I totally could relate to that, because I had a lot of anxiety bottled up when I was a teen, and
Hmm.
it led me in so many different directions, but I always had the desire to help other people. So tell us
Hmm.
about your experience with that.
So, as you just mentioned, the desire to help people, I, at a young age, kind of decided that medicine would be that thing that I would pursue where I'd be able to help people. It's a very vital career. You literally save people's lives. I can't imagine too many things being more rewarding than being able to do that. So when I was a kid and I was a teenager, I had, some forms of reference, frames of reference as to careers. And I was, of course, you get sick, you're able to experience the doctor-patient relationship firsthand. So that was, you know, the the most detailed idea of a career that I wanted to have just based off of personal experience. So decided to pursue that in college, and I went to Rutgers University in New Brunswick. My brother
Mhm.
did as well, and we did try and go to different colleges. We applied to a lot of the same ones, but some different ones. The scholarship money was just too good to pass up. So we both went there, created our different experiences and lives there because it's a huge university, so it's easy to break apart. But yeah, once I went to college, I was on the track to medicine. I took all of the prerequisite courses necessary prior to applying to medical school. I struggled my freshman year early on just because I didn't know how to study properly in high school. I didn't really need to study. Not that it wasn't challenging, but I didn't need to study as much. So I was focused in class. I learned enough. I took the exams, and I did really well. In college, I found that that wasn't enough. So I learned that the hard way with a challenging first semester, but turned things around and started doing really well in the courses. Had a high GPA and was ready to take the medical school admission exam, the MCAT. And during that time in my junior year, that was kind of where my career aspirations and my path took a change. I started struggling more than I ever had before in terms of my academic performance, and that was the first time I experienced that level of hardship, and I didn't have the tools to regulate in the moment and kind of bounce back and figure out, you know, how to proceed in a calm and graceful way with, myself. I was always very hard on myself leading up to where I was my junior year of college, whether
Mhm.
it was in high school. I just had this competitive mindset. I had to be the best at everything. And leading up to that point, I was the best at a lot of things that I did. I achieved a lot in my life in terms of accolades and accomplishments. And that was the first time I was really, really struggling with something and I didn't
Mhm.
know what to do about it. But, as I've come to realize now in my later years of life, not too much later, but later years of life, that it was all based off of my value system and the way my beliefs about myself, the importances I placed on certain things and how it didn't serve me and it wasn't healthy. So yeah, during that time, my junior year, I experienced a lot of hardship, a lot of anxiety, bouts of depression, and I had to learn how to pivot in a very painful way in order to live a more graceful life, fulfilling life, and just live more light and at ease no matter what happened. And that kind of led me down a path of mental health awareness,
Mhm.
education, and kind of just like spiritual practice that became part of my life and is still
Yeah.
something that I do every day.
Mhm. A lot of
Mhm.
people talk about the hardships that they go through, but there has to come a point in time where you said, "This is not working for me. I need to do something about it," and arriving at that self-awareness because all things considered, you had a great life,
Mhm.
and there are people that struggle tremendously throughout their childhood, and they have that, I guess, for lack of a better term, that emotional intelligence to be able to navigate through all of those things because they're given the tools early on. But for a lot
Mhm.
of people who have the great upbringing, even though there might have been certain situations and struggles there throughout school, there's going to come a time when you are faced with all of that, like head on. And if you don't know how to navigate that, then you're stuck. This is where you start going down this terrible spiral of negativity and depression and anxiety. So I would
Mhm.
love to know at what point in time you got to where you said, I need to do something. This is not working for me. How do I get help? Did you get help right away or did you start to try to figure it out on your own?
Yeah. So in my life, whenever I struggled with something, I always dealt with it on my own. I I think I think it's partially because of the way I was raised. I think we didn't openly express our thoughts and emotions in my household or within my family. So I I guess learned on my own to kind of deal with my own doubts or struggles on my own. And I was able to do that to a certain degree up until that point of my life where I was in the middle of my college career. And then, this situation happened and, it was very real for me what the struggle that I was experiencing and this kind of dilemma I was in with myself and, the importance I placed on something, external and really not loving myself and valuing myself at that time. I tried for about a month to handle it on my own. I had experienced certain bouts of anxious periods of my life, but they would go away after maybe a day or a week of just me trying to deal with it however I best knew how. But this was something that didn't go away. And I experienced thoughts, emotions, physiological feelings I had never experienced in my life before because of what I was experiencing. So I didn't know what to do with all of that.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so I did seek help. At my university they offered free therapy, individual therapy sessions to students. So I took advantage of that and just committed to learning, getting
Yeah.
help, and being vulnerable
Mm.
in the sessions that I had with my therapist there, just to get to the root of what was causing this pain, this discomfort, and why I'm experiencing this in this way. So yeah, after about a month, and I realized I couldn't do it on my own. I got help.
Yeah. You mentioned something very interesting. It's the physiological feeling that you had
Hmm.
in your body, because sometimes we don't realize that all of these things, our thoughts are going to cause us to feel a certain way, not just emotionally, but physically.
Yes.
So, can you give an example or two of where it is that you felt this so that people can understand, wow, maybe this is why I'm going through this and I experience it physically. And at that point in time, you must absolutely get the help that you need. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I felt it in a few places throughout my body. I think the most noticeable one is just an elevated heartbeat, like a rapid heart rate, as if it's essentially, a fight or flight response that I was experiencing because of what in the moment, I was perceiving to be a threat. It felt like a threat to me, so my body responded in that way as if it was, there was something dangerous happening. So just a elevated heart rate, rapid heartbeat. So I felt it a lot in my chest. Breathing became a little bit more labored. Harder to take deep breaths, mainly in that area. Even some head tension, I guess, just a lot of mental stimulation, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word, the brain being a little overactive and strained. So just feeling some head pressure, like in the temple area. Those are some things that I felt. It was all uncomfortable, and it varied in terms of discomfort and
Yeah.
comfort levels. But yeah, I felt it in all of those areas. It was really
Mhm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's more of a tangible and visual thing that you can think about if you're going through any of this. It's important to understand your body, understand your level of thinking and your awareness,
Hmm.
which is going to take you in the direction that you need to go. And that for you was getting the help that you needed. So, how did you feel once you were able to talk to somebody and explain all of these things that you were going through?
At first, it was a really weird experience for me because I had to be honest. I had to disclose some things that you know I was I was thinking to myself, is this person really going to believe me when I say that this is what I'm feeling, or like what's the response? What's their response going to be to me saying that I'm feeling this? Actually, ties perfectly into your positive toxicity episode, the last episode you did. For those that haven't listened, go back and listen to that episode because it was great, and it's about validating other people's responses and their experiences. So for me, I didn't want to say like, "Oh, I'm feeling this really extremely," and have somebody tell me, "Oh, you're gonna be all right." Just
Mhm.
just think positive. So there were a lot of unknowns in how the experience would be for me, but once I knew I had to just be as forthcoming as possible, as specific as possible with what I was feeling and thinking, and tears and all kinds of emotions just being spewed out. I realized it was, as it says, therapeutic. It was, I worked with someone who was really supportive and neutral and let me speak my truth and helped guide me to different ways of thinking
Mhm.
and feeling and developing skills to regulate my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions.
Mhm.
I learned so many things in that period, and even to this day, I still continue therapy every so often. I think one tidbit for me to the audience, if you don't already do this, is to do yourself the observer of your emotions. Create like this not this alter ego, but like this small persona in your mind that is the observer, and it's detached from the the emotions that come with the thoughts that you have, and it allows you to take a step back into who this observer is and analyze your thoughts before subconsciously reacting to them.
Mhm.
Doing that gives you the opportunity to respond to the thoughts that you have. Be curious. Curiosity is a great thing to be. Just be unconditionally curious about what you're thinking. It allows you to take a step back and analyze your thoughts and say, oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling this way, instead of I'm feeling this way. I need to respond. I need to panic because that's what I've been taught to do.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of what my process was too. Unlearning things that were taught to me by society or by my parents that, or by anybody, that it just didn't serve me well. But without going on into a tangent, yeah, therapy at first was uncomfortable, but yeah, I just was committed to living a better quality of life, because at the time I didn't have that. And yeah, so I did everything I needed
Mhm.
to do to get better.
That's beautiful. I love that. The fact that you learn to be the observer of your thoughts. And this is something that is important. We think things, we feel things, but we don't stop to really analyze, and we're just on autopilot. And that's a
Right.
problem, because there's going to come a point where you're going to experience burnout, or you're going to experience a drastic emotional collapse, and that's not going to serve you. So take a moment to be the observer of your thoughts. I love that so much. And as somebody who's extremely self-aware, and somebody who's a life coach, I put it in this way to people: just think about how you feel, accept the feeling, be with
Mm-hmm.
it, analyze where it's coming from. And if there's something you can do about it, then act on it if you don't want to sit in it for too long. But we can't just dismiss the feelings. And that's where the emotional intelligence comes from. And it comes from a
Mm-hmm.
young age, where we see the kids, they fall, they cry, or maybe they're scared. And we say, oh, be brave. You're a big boy, be a big boy. Boys don't cry. Like all of these things that
Yes.
we grew up with because our parents didn't know any better. But
Mm-hmm.
here we are now as emotionally intelligent beings. And when you become a parent, you're going to be an amazing dad, Dean. I can tell, because you are going to know exactly what to do when the time comes, and how to bring up your children in a way that helps them to make the right decisions, to be more conscientious of how they feel, and to act accordingly. It's great that you learn to do all this. So I have to give you your props for doing that, for being open about it, and for being vulnerable enough to go to somebody and talk about your feelings as a man.
I had to put all of that aside at the time. I said this to someone recently. We are the only ones that live with the experience of ourselves every day. No matter what things look like on the outside, whatever we put out there publicly, only we know what our experience is like on a daily basis. And whether it's pleasant or painful, joyful or sad. And we have the ability to control our internal environment. So I knew that my internal environment was thrown off, and I didn't have the tools to get it back into a more positive light. So I had to humble myself and seek help. And it's been one of the greatest blessings I've experienced, experiencing this pain that's led me down this road of bliss.
Mm-hmm. Bliss. Now tell us about what it is that you're doing now. Now, all of that, you decided to pivot and not go to, or not pursue medical school. What
Yeah.
did you do after that? What were you able to do once you were able to break through and start the healing process?
Well, what what I'm doing now isn't even related to what I did immediately afterwards. It was a lengthy process of trying to figure out what would come next for me, because at that time everything I did in my life led up to one conclusion, and that conclusion was not realized, of going to medical school. So I'm already, at the time, 3/4 of the way done with college. What am I going to do if it's not that? Now I have a year to figure out, okay, what am I going to do if it's not this, if I'm not going to pursue this anymore? So I spent the last year of my college career trying to figure out, okay, I'm graduating. What am I going to do? I graduated. My major was in exercise science and sports studies. So I had a foundation to, work in rehabilitative areas, gyms, fitness centers, what have you. So I ended up starting as a personal trainer. I got a personal training certification as soon as I graduated, and didn't start immediately, but I'll attribute that to my late uncle, who passed away 2 years ago. He opened up a gym in Queens, and towards the end of my college career, he's like, "Hey, why don't you get certified and you can work here?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, let me go for that." So I did that, and it didn't work out with my uncle's gym, to say the least. But I had the certification, and I just looked to get my foot in the door somewhere with personal training, just to move things forward, not be stagnant, start working, start building, start growing in something. And then I did that, and I've been doing it for 11 years now. And along the way, Zumba came into my life as something that I'm doing and didn't expect to do at all, and
Mhm.
kind of just
How did that
happened.
start? Tell us about how that started, going from personal training to Zumba.
Yeah. So I I've been dancing Latin music for, so like salsa, bachata, partner dancing for about 13 years. And it's something that I do socially. It's something that I know how to do. I've done it on a not a semi-professional level, but I've performed on teams. So I know how to dance. And people in the gym setting would say, "Oh, you know how to dance. Zumba's a dance class. Why don't you teach that?" But at the time, I didn't really know exactly. I mean, I knew what Zumba was, but I didn't know what Zumba could be for me. I didn't know how I could fit into what Zumba is, or what I saw it to be. And to be honest, I saw a lot of middle-aged white women wearing cargo pants, not dancing that great. And I was like, okay, this just doesn't look like something that I want to do. But I got into fitness management. My first role as a manager was at a YMCA in Edison. And there was one time where there was a class going on, and the instructor didn't show, or was running quite late, and the class was full. So I was there working. I went in there and I put some salsa music on, and I started dancing. And then the instructor came like 15, 20 minutes later. But the class was quite pleased with it, and they asked me to come back. And I said, okay, well, if I have to do this, I'm just going to get the certification just so I can cover classes and keep things moving in in the instance this happens again.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I kind of just had the certification in my back pocket, just to know the structure of the class and know how to deliver it properly in a substitute emergency situation. One thing led to another, and I've been doing it for 6 years. I know there's many like yourself have been doing it a lot longer. That was my entry point. That was my time. That was my time to get in. And yeah,
Mhm.
now I'm still doing it.
Yeah, you were thrown into that subbing situation. How did you feel? Were you nervous? Did it give you any level of anxiety, or were you like, "Oh, I got this. This is a piece of cake for me. I know how to dance."
In that instance, I wasn't nervous, because I just did what I knew. I didn't know the Zumba structure. I didn't know what it was supposed to be. I was just like, okay, there's Latin music in this class. I have salsa, bachata, merengue in
Yeah.
my playlist. I'll just play it, and I'll dance to it in a certain line dance kind of sequence, and have people follow me. And and that was what I did.
Mhm.
And I just needed to get these students to do something while the instructor was on her way. So for me, that was my only focus. It's just to give them something, instead of, having a horde of people with pitchforks and flames coming to my office asking me, what's going on here. So
Yes.
it gave everybody something to do, and they didn't have to just stand around and wait. So for me, that was fine. If I was teaching, I don't know, if the same thing happened in yoga, for example, I would probably die with a heart attack. I wouldn't be able to. I'm not skilled enough to do that at
Mhm.
the moment, so that would be a different experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. I that's awesome that you did that. My first experience, I had been going to Zumba classes for 2.5 years, and my instructor knew that she was going to be moving away. At that point, I was already licensed. I already had my group fitness certification.
Hmm.
So she basically decided to check out early, and she said, "Oh, can you come get my iPod? I'll just, I'm done." And I said, "What? I can't sub the class. Taking the class is one thing, but leading the class is
Hmm.
completely different." So that's what I did. And I showed up with her iPod. And this is like, she would never let anybody look at her iPod. Nobody could look at it, nobody could touch it. And I show up to the studio, and the cable is missing that goes from the iPod to the sound
Oh
system.
yeah. Hmm.
And that was just crazy. I started the class 15, 20 minutes late. Everybody waited, though. They were so gracious and patient.
Hmm.
And I got through it, and then I was sick for the rest of the day, like, just sick to my stomach for the rest of the day. It was such a nerve-wracking experience. I don't know how I made it to actually teaching my own classes. I always tell people, if I had to think about it, I wouldn't have done it, because I was very afraid of public speaking
Hmm.
and afraid of crowds. And I get a little disoriented still when I'm in big crowds. So I'm always better like one on one. If we're with a group of people, I get a little thrown off. I don't know if it's a sensory thing, maybe it's a sensory thing, but I'm better
Hmm.
like sitting next to somebody and having a conversation as opposed to being with a group of people. So I don't know how the Zumba thing worked out for me. It's bizarre
Hmm.
the way that it all happened after all these years. I'm nervous as heck, man. So now tell us
Hmm.
about the that journey of Zumba and what it's allowed you to do and how you're able now to bring yourself and who you are to the people around you.
That's a pretty complex question. I'm going to try and answer it in a few different areas.
Yeah.
I think piggybacking off of what you said in terms of the public speaking aspect and being in front of crowd was never my forte, not something that I was comfortable with growing up. In terms of like the spectrum of extrovertedness, introvertedness, I feel like slightly shifted towards introvert, but like still in the middle. Like I can express both, but I thrive more on one-on-one conversations. I'm never going to be the loud, boisterous person in a group,
Mhm.
but if I say something, it might, in a loud room, everybody might go silent and then turn towards me and, be like, what did you say? Because it has that meaning, that significance. But otherwise, I think Zumba has, I mean, the way that I lead my classes now, it allows me to express who I am. And yes, there's a structure, and I follow the structure. I make sure that everybody who comes knows that, okay, I can expect this is representative of what Zumba is. I get the Latin rhythms, and I get, the moves and the structure and all of these things. But then there's aspects of the experience that I create on my own based off of, you know, songs that I love that are of different genres, languages, feelings. And I'm really intentional about curating songs for my classes that create different experiences for the students, whether they interact, whether they feel romance or goosebumps or elation or something like that in different aspects of the class. It gives me the medium to be able to share that. And music is a huge passion of mine. I love it so much, and it gives me the ability to share a part of who I am with the class in a way that, allows them to move, exercise, but, in a way learn if they're open to learning about something new, and just feel feelings that they might not feel after a day at their 9 to 5 of, you know happiness, sadness, all kinds of different things. So I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to teach Zumba and be able to do it in a way that feels authentic to me and staying true to the brand.
Mhm.
It's given me a lot. I've given a lot to it, and I'll continue to do that.
Can you tell me about maybe a favorite memory or an experience from your class that you still think about or that jumps at you as something that gives you some sort of emotion?
There's a few. The first one that came to mind when you just said that is there's a class I currently teach at LA Fitness nearby, and there was a class of about 60 people, and I remember I did the cool down, and I did it in a way that interacted with everybody. And I remember when the class ended, they all stayed for a minute and applauded me nonstop. They just kept clapping and whistling and yelling, and you know, it, it was it was as if I were, I don't know, Beyonce delivering a concert and everyone giving me a standing ovation at the end of it because they thought it was so good. That's what it felt like. That was real love. And I remember that day. I remember that class because the whole class felt special to me. And the ending it's not a reception I'm accustomed to getting all the time. So
Mhm.
that was very special.
You made an emotional connection with your participants. And I'm a Zumba mentor. Like when the Zumba mentoring program came out, was it, I think the year after I started teaching, I
Hmm.
became an official Zumba mentor, and I've mentored instructors over the years who have moved away, have been in videos now. It's super cool to see, teach at other Lifetime facilities too.
Yeah.
And one thing that I would say to them is once you make an emotional connection with your participants, you have
Hmm.
for life. They're in your pocket. You keep them right here in the front, not in your back pocket, but right here, and it's beautiful to see. And it comes with time. And for me, it was always about just sharing a little bit here and there, like whatever I would learn or whatever I would hear. And then once I became, because I'm very introverted, I'm better now, like you, more of a, I guess, a social introvert. So it
Hmm.
helped me to come out of my shell a little bit more and to share. And I realized that the people, they love to hear what you have to say. They love to hear about your day. They love to hear about the situations that I might have with the kids or with my husband or with the dog.
Hmm.
Whenever I share something that has meaning like that, like what I do now is I have a practice with them right after class. They all have to close their eyes and they all have to think about something. I give them whatever prompt, and many of them cry. And it's once you tug at their heart, it's a whole different experience. It's not a class anymore, it's an experience.
Hmm.
So that's so cool that you experience that, more of that for sure.
Yeah, and it's great that you do that. That's your unique touch in your class, and that's the thing. You can create any experience that you want as an individual with
Yeah,
your authentic self. And one of the things I learned during my transition through Zumba over the years is how to not just be a good dancer, but to be an entertainer, to be experience curator, for lack of better terms. Learning how to sense the room more and be more flexible in the moment to try and deliver something that you feel the students need in that moment, and then maybe change your approach from class to class when delivering a certain song or experience. So it all comes with time. And you were doing this practice after your first couple of classes. It took years, for you to
yeah.
have this practice at the end of your class and make it your own and have the students gravitate towards it. But it's a tribute to what you've done with all your years of hard work.
And I can imagine too when you say reading the room and all that, it's like being a DJ and playing the right music,
That's
right?
right.
So you
That's
have
right.
to be able to get people dancing and keep them dancing. One thing that
Yeah.
gets on my nerves is when you have, a great track playing and everybody's having a great time, they're dancing, and all of a sudden the DJ completely changes everything. And you're just
Hmm.
like, what in the world? You have to go and sit down. But tell us now about that part of you, because Zumba is all about music and the
Yeah.
connection and the movement. And then with the DJing, how did you get into
Hmm.
DJing?
That's something that I've always wanted to do. That was something that I wanted to do since I was a teen, like maybe even a preteen, and I never did it because of many variables or factors that I guess they're real, but I could have overcome them. The cost of the equipment, buying the music, learning how to do it, all these things, and not seeing it as a viable career option for me. So I'm like, I'm not gonna put my time into this. I'm just gonna focus on medicine and school. Always something I wanted to do. Music is one of the things that gives me life. It enhances my life in so many ways every day. People always ask me what shows I'm watching on TV. I'm like, I'm not watching anything, but I'm listening to music every day, all day.
Mm.
So it's my passion. So it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I have a friend who's done DJing before, and he was willing to show me certain things about how to use the DJ controller that you has all the knobs and the wheels and all that stuff. So I learned some basic things and took it and ran with it from there. I was a bedroom DJ for a while, just making my own mixes and experimenting with different things. And
Mm.
one thing led to another. And I'm still growing in that environment and finding ways to share my passion with other people in different areas. So still looking for other opportunities to be able to share that with people. It's a different way for me to curate an experience I think that's what I want to do in life is I want to create experiences for people that induce joy and happiness. And for me, music is that for me, and I love it.
What is your favorite type of music to listen to when you're not necessarily providing an experience for other people?
It, I think it changes. I think it's fluid. I tend to go towards I'll say house music in general, but there's so many different levels to that. It could be something very calm and soothing like deep house, tribal house. That's just easy listening. You could put it on as ambient music during your day and do work, and it really gets at me. These last few days I've been listening to like R&B ballads or things from the 90s, the 2000s because I want to be in my feelings, and I just sit at home or in my car and I
Mhm.
belt out the
Yeah.
choruses of all these songs, and it gives me a lot of joy.
Mhm.
And then there's sometimes I want to listen to some hardcore hip hop or rap, and it, it's fluid, or pop, reggaeton.
Yeah.
It depends on which which persona is coming out on any given day.
Yeah, so that's interesting you say persona because the people who know me well know that I have different personalities, and each personality can be very different from the other. What about for you? Would you say that you also have different types of personalities, and how does that come out when you're, putting yourself out there and performing?
I think I do have a few. I mean, I think I've realized that I have this entertainer personality that I think it was very reduced by me my whole life. In dancing situations growing up, I didn't dance because I was always afraid of what people would think or say about me because I was very insecure about how I danced or whatnot. And the people that I was around, some good dancers where I grew up with, a lot of rhythm down there. So yeah, I mean, it fluctuates. Sometimes I'm this jovial entertainer, and then sometimes I'm this, compassionate healer. Sometimes I'm this hopeless romantic. Sometimes I don't know, this spontaneous adventurer.
Mhm.
And these things come out in different moments. I guess when they're called for.
Yeah. You just step into the role that you're meant to be in that moment. Mhm.
Yes.
The other question that I had for you was about your future. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is Dean up to?
Dean is doing the same things. Well, he's doing the same things professionally, but he's grown a lot in that time, and he's doing it in a different way. He's creating experiences at a higher level, whether it's through, you know, personal training for one, transitioning into more of a lifestyle coach rather than someone just focused on movement. And Dean will be evolving with the times and the trends to offer things that, offer people more value and than more than just one part of their life. In terms of Zumba, I aspire to travel and teach. I want to share what I'm doing with people. Not enough people know what I'm doing, and I believe in what I'm doing, and I believe in what I can create. And that's the nice thing about art. It's individual, it's unique, and nobody can take that away from you. I believe in what I have within me, and I want to share it with people because I believe that it's different, and I believe that and I want to share a different part of myself. I want to share a different part of the world with others, and being able to do that for me would be a real joy. And I'm going to keep working towards being in that area. And then in terms of DJing, my dream would be to perform in front of a crowd of 1,000 people in a nightclub or a rave or
Mhm.
festival or something like that, and just have everybody's hearts in my hand with every turn of the knob, and take them on a musical journey. I've experienced that for myself in a crowd, and I've cried in crowds like that before
Mhm.
because of how beautiful of an experience it is to me. And I want to have the ability to do that. So I'll keep working towards making that a possibility, even if it's not that large of a scale, could be a little bit smaller. I just want to have the ability to take people to some euphoric level with a musical experience.
Yeah. I'm picturing it already. You in a crowd, headphones here, the turntables, the lights, and everything. Let me ask you this question. What is some of the best advice you've ever received?
There's one thing I'm thinking of. I can think of a quote that I just heard a few weeks ago that's resonated with me. But one thing a coach said to me back then was, when you point the finger, there's three pointing back at you. And from then on, I didn't accuse anybody of anything, or I didn't blame anybody for anything. I didn't jump to conclusions. If I suspected something or I thought something, I would talk about it, or I would take ownership for something that went wrong, even if it wasn't my fault, just because I didn't want to carry that guilt or that feeling, that comes with, accusing or blaming somebody of something. So that stuck with me. I think one of the things, like the don't take things personally cliche, I mean, I don't know if that's a lesson, but it is something that's allowed me to take a step back when I'm like in a moment of confrontation, whether it's like an uncomfortable conversation with a colleague, or when I was in management or significant other, when I'm in a relationship of, whatever the result of what I'm saying is on that person, I'm not doing it maliciously. So I know that whatever their feeling might be, it could be of hurt, it could be of pain. It's or they can say things about me. It's only because of what they're feeling in the moment. It's not because of who I am.
Mhm.
So that's helped me navigate, these responses that I may have received from people that may not have been favorable. One of my biggest things is about change is, accepting the change, adjusting, and moving forward. That's a really big thing for me.
Mhm.
It makes change easier for me to embrace. Living with that, yeah, it just makes it easier to adapt to what's happening and be okay with whatever happens. So yeah, those are the things that are coming to mind
Yeah.
initially.
What's the biggest lesson that you might have learned over the last few years?
I don't know. I guess one thing is just to lead with compassion always. Always lead with compassion. I think it's helped me to connect with people more deeply. It's helped me to understand people at a greater level. I feel like I can almost sense what somebody is feeling just by looking at them at this point, and I can regulate myself to match what they may need in that moment, the way they need to be communicated with in that moment. And it's just with this constant pursuit of looking to understand other people. So I think that's something that I've learned over the last few years. That's helped my relationships grow. That's helped me be a better communicator, a better friend,
Mhm.
better lover when it's applied. So yeah, that's something that I've learned.
I like that. Now, in terms of what you've gone through in your life, let's say that you encounter somebody who may be currently going through what you went through growing up and having to pivot and maybe thinking that they should stick to whatever their original plan was. And
Hmm.
of course, that causes a tremendous amount of anxiety because some people feel like they're letting their family down
Yeah.
or other people. What would you say to somebody like that and somebody who's going through that at the moment?
Well, first I would tell them that whatever they're feeling is valid and that they're understood and appreciated and loved. Just even with these doubts and these concerns about the future. But I think I would remind anybody that we're living our lives. It's our individual lives. We're not living for anybody else but ourselves. We are our most important person. And something in terms of a career is something that you have to do. And if you're doing something that you don't enjoy, that doesn't feel you're the one that has to experience it. And then I guess challenging them to think about what the future might look like with them doing that thing that they're questioning and wondering if it's right for them, if it's what they should be doing, and I guess trying to channel some visualization
Mhm.
to stimulate the feelings that might come, the thoughts that might come with doing that, and having them analyze what that might be like. So that, and also reminding them that it's okay to be unsure. It's okay to question what you've been doing. It's okay to change anything in life. It's never too late to change. There's a lot to changing something like that. I understand the gravity of it and the magnitude of it because there's people involved that expect you to be that after doing that or pursuing that for so long. It's almost as if people define you as that because of what they've come to expect.
Mhm.
So now you're challenging that belief about you, and it's not easy. But in that moment, there's a lot of compassion that needs to be had about what's been achieved up until that point. The educational achievements, the personal achievements, the spiritual achievements. The fact that we're still here is a huge achievement.
Yeah.
And I always lead with that. I always tell people there's so many people that wish they could be here right now and they didn't get that opportunity for one reason or another. So we're really fortunate. So yeah, it might be cloudy, it might be cold, it might be raining, but we're here. You
Mhm.
know, embrace that. Be thankful for that. That's a really great thing. I mean, you have a place to live, you have food to eat. At the
Mhm.
very minimum, these are all little wins in your day, in your life, and you need to remind yourself of that more because they're not given. They're not something to take for granted. We have these things, and I think gratitude for the other things that you have in your life besides just you get to a point where you're pursuing a career and now you're going to change. I think it makes it easier to look at change in a very positive way when you're already feeling a lot of gratitude for what you have. I think it makes it easier to
Mhm.
more openly look at pivoting your career from one to another, investigating it, being curious about it, being excited about it, and then having the courage to go for it. So somebody who is looking to change, I think I would focus more on what they already have,
Mhm.
and then comparing what they're currently going through, and investigating the things that they might be interested in pursuing and how to get there, and figuring out what it takes to do that, and then working with them, or I should say, referring to a specialist to work with them to navigate, what they feel about their family and friends who may think negatively about them because of this
Mhm.
change. Because that's a response that we can control on our own. But you need certain tools to do that, and if you don't have them on your own, great to get mental health help. So yeah, steering someone in the direction of curiosity and openness,
Mhm.
and making them feel normal, normalizing change, normalizing doubt and uncertainty. We're expected to know everything and know exactly what we want to do and have the plan to do it, achieve it at a certain time, make this much money
Mhm.
at a certain time, get this promotion at a certain time, getting rid of all of that and just stripping it down to the individual. I guess in a roundabout way, that's how I would
Yeah.
help somebody who's going
Mhm.
through that.
Yeah, everybody's different, and we can't have cookie cutter advice for people because everybody thinks differently, they feel differently. So I like that you say that normalizing the feelings, normalizing the doubt, because it's part of life. Now, let me ask you this. When those doubts creep in, what are some of the things that you do, or what are some of the things that you say to yourself? Do you have affirmations, or do you have like other people, like no Tony Robbins likes to call them incantations, things that he will say passionately out loud to get him to the frame of mind that allows him to act accordingly? What about you?
Yeah, I think occasionally doubts come up about what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, what is the future for me in what I'm doing, and all these things that I'm doing. What is there to come for me? What's the quote unquote end result? And then I'm going to answer your question, but it just has me thinking. It's a very thought provoking question about my day to day and my week to week. I mean, there's fantastic instructors like yourself, and I'm like, okay, I'm 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 just another instructor. That's what I think sometimes, and I'm like, no, I have a lot of skills. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot to offer, and I'm curious about learning and growing and getting better. So whenever I think I'm not as good of an instructor, or I'm not good enough to get to another level, I think about what I can control in the moment, and that's belief in myself, being proud of my desire to grow and get better, and knowing and being excited about what the result of my growth is going to be, and being excited about being able to do that. So in everything that I do, when I have doubts about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, I think about, I love that I want to learn. I love that I want to grow. And I know that something positive is going to come from this. I don't know what it is, but I know something positive is going to come from this. So I'm just going to throw myself into learning this new skill, this new technique, this new way of thinking, and go for it. And at the very least, I learned something new, and I'm better off for it. And I focus on growth every single day of my life. That is my focus every single day. I don't want to just expect to be here without thinking about my process. And my process is daily. What can I control? I can control learning. I can control my outlook. I can control the way I take care of myself to set the environment to be able to pursue everything at the greatest degree. My diet, my sleep, my hydration, my movement, all of those things I'm excited about controlling every day, because I know it's going to benefit me in some positive way. So whenever doubt comes in, oh, that person's really an amazing instructor, I'm not that skilled, I'm not that talented, I don't know if I'll ever be at that level. Well, I know that I feel great. I'm able to deliver my class in the best way possible. I know that I can learn new skills, and I can make it my own, and I can, grow in that, and that's it. So it's easy to doubt in this world, especially when we compare ourselves to people in our industry or even outside of it.
Right.
Just believing in what I'm doing, controlling the environment I create for myself every day is my focus. And with that, my doubts go away really easily. Another thing, back to the observer point, observing thoughts. I have this. I just imagine somebody looking like me but smaller being in my brain, and just like literally seeing thoughts float like clouds, and saying, "Oh, I'm feeling doubt again. That's interesting. I'm really curious as to why I'm doubting that. Huh? That's interesting." And then moving on, It's just curiosity. How interesting. Instead of, oh my God, doubt. I'm in a panic. I don't know what to do. I should probably just not show up today because it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
Doubt, observe. They're separate. There doesn't have to be a reaction to the doubt. So going back into my observer lens inside my mind, all those things help. Talking to close family members, relatives, friends about the doubt in that moment. That's something I would recommend to people too, is to have a support network, for lack of better terms. They don't need to be specifically for that, but just really good friends or people you trust, where you could text, say, hey, I'm feeling really off today. I'm feeling really doubtful about myself. I don't think I can do today. I don't think today's going to go well. Or I don't know, if you have a presentation in front of people, I'm worried about, I'm doubting my ability to do this speech. I don't know how it's going to be received. I don't know how it's going to go. Just having somebody to do that, and then just having somebody say, hey, you've prepared. You've done all you can. It's going to be great. Just go do it. Don't worry about anything else. That's really valuable. So have these different tools available to you.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people need that. I say things a certain way, and people are used to my way of sharing. But it's always important to hear other people's perspective and how they navigate doubt, how you navigate being insecure about certain things, and how you turn it all around by observing, by being curious. And you've said that several times already, which is, to me, it's wonderful, because you are somebody who's so self-aware, and I need people to understand that you have to take a step back, and you have to not fall into those patterns of negativity by continuously allowing those doubts to creep in and to just stay there and to become part of your being. Instead, just observe and just let it. It's like a conveyor belt. Just let them go. And if you see something there that is really, really awesome, then you grab it and you take it with you. But when it comes to those negative feelings, you have to observe them, understand where they're coming from, and let
Mhm.
them go. Now, the question that I have for you is about success. What is your definition of success? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. At the very bare minimum, success is waking up to live another day. I really truly believe that, and then it builds from there. But just going back to what you said about how I mentioned curiosity a lot. It's because it's something I believe, and it's something that I've practiced over and over again for months and months leading into years. And that's what this kind of mindset shift takes. It's a deliberate practice to be able to shift a negative to a positive almost instantaneously, just to perceive it differently and paint a different picture in your mind, so that you can see, I guess, seemingly negative situations as an opportunity. What can I get out of this thought? What am I learning? What am I gathering from this? Do I have to engage in it? You can choose. That's the point of it. You can choose if you want to engage in it or not. And that's what we want to give the power of people to do, is to choose what they engage in. So, but in terms of being successful, success for me is knowing that I did the best I can every day, knowing that I gave everything I could to every single day and not wasting any moment. If there's something I want to achieve, doing all I can to learn, to prepare, whatever is required to do a certain task, achieve a certain objective, knowing that I prepared as hard as I could and did as much as I could, irrespective of the result, success. I think for me, seeing through my process to achieving something and knowing that I followed it and I did all of the steps, that's success. Because the result could be subjective. It could be up to the scrutiny, not the scrutiny, but the opinion of others, and everybody has a different opinion. So are you really a failure because all of your preparation didn't lead to something that they particularly liked or were fond of? No, I mean, success is all in the process of having tasks, achieving them, and giving your best every day, your honest best effort. You, you, I never want to look back and say, I wish I would have done this more. I wish I gave this more time. I wish I would have tried harder. Every day is intentional. So we're getting intentional with Mary. Every day is intentional. This interview is intentional. What I'm saying right now, I'm intentionally saying because I really want to make a difference in whoever's listening. I didn't show up to this interview unprepared. I intentionally know what I want to say. I mean, I don't know all the questions you're asking me, but I'm just not showing up on a podcast just to show up on a podcast.
Yeah.
There's an intent behind this conversation. So for me, success is all about what you do on your end, day in and day out. And if you give your best effort to it, there's nothing more you can ask for.
Beautiful. You are prepared. I got to tell you, your answers are all on point. Now, the next question is about who or what inspires you the most?
You know, I think there's a few people. The first one, it comes from I teach some virtual classes a couple of times a week, Zumba classes, and I have some special needs students in that class, and they inspire me. They inspire me because they show up to my class and they could have all the excuses in the world not to do anything in their lives, but they show up and they dance their hearts out, and they engage with the students, and they show up, and I'm like, and I know the backstory of some of them, and how hard their life was to even be able to just like wake up in the morning and they're there in my class, and I'm just like, this person's showing up. If this person's showing up, I have to show up for them. I have to give them my all, and I have to continue to give my all in private, so that I can continue to deliver something that's really great for them. So they motivate me to work harder, to always be challenging myself to create something different, and to grow, at least in that area. I think my parents motivate me, not necessarily directly, as if like they're like my daily coaches, as to like, oh, you're almost there, you're doing great. I think it's more, I know what my goals are, and they've given me everything they possibly could have in their lives to set me up for success in the future. And even though they don't have a lot, or fell short in some things that they aspired for in their lives, it makes me want to achieve that, so I could kind of share that success. Well, that I don't want to say success, that accomplishment, that achievement with them, so that it could be something that's kind of collective. Like, I want them to feel proud they've achieved something that they aspired for, and that my parents may have wanted and just never experienced, or never had the opportunity to do it. So through my work, or financially, or what have you, I want to aspire for more, so that I can have that, and I can share that with them, and say like, we did this, we did this together. There's a lot of people. My brother motivates me, because he's such a hustler, and I think it's contagious. I try and surround myself with people that are ambitious and always striving for more. Just people like yourself. Shout out to Karen. Hustlers that
Yeah.
that are working tirelessly for their businesses, and growing something for themselves, and putting themselves out there to grow what they believe in. And it's led me down the path of entrepreneurship, and I didn't think that was for me. And I've pursued that for a few years, and I'm still learning a lot of different things. But I'm as ambitious as ever. I mean, especially because of my brother, and what I've been able to see from him, the way he's grown from when he was 21 to now 10 years later. It's incredible. It's a spot inspiring. I'm just motivated by ambitious people, because I know what I want for myself, and they bring the best out of me. They make me want to work hard, and hustle, and not lay down when things get tough, but to keep pushing forward, and believing that there's really there's no ceiling to what I can achieve. It's not like, oh, okay, you'll get to $100,000 salary, if you put in this amount of time at work, and yeah, that's what you're expected to make. It could be a whole lot more. The experiences I could have could be a whole lot more fulfilling, a whole lot more interesting. I don't know. I'm on Mary Massey's podcast right now. I didn't expect to be here. It's a privilege, and it's all come because of what I've experienced leading up to this moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm motivated by quite a few people.
You're like this like sponge, right? Absorbing it all constantly, and learning, and putting yourself out there without looking back anymore, because all of the things that you experience now have allowed you to think differently, to act differently, and to inspire other people, because you are an inspiration. The moment that you step in front of anybody, they're looking at you to fulfill something that may be missing inside of them,
Hmm.
or to learn something. And
Right.
throughout all of those experiences, we grow and we transform ourselves from the person that
Hmm.
we were even 6 months ago. I'm not the same person that I was 6 months ago. So, by being surrounded by the right people, and by learning, by looking at life in a different light,
Hmm.
we have no choice but to keep going. To me, something continues to pull me. And along the way, sometimes you're walking, and you see all of these beautiful flowers and vines and everything growing, and you just stop and you pick, and if you like it, you take it with you. And
Hmm.
that's what I like to that's how I see people, is along my path. It's a bumpy road. Sometimes it's
Yes.
smooth, sometimes there's like craters, but we
Hmm.
walk along, we continue to walk, and we continue to grow through it, and we bring everybody else with us. So with that being said, I just want to thank you for taking this time with me, and for being so prepared. And I love that you curate an experience. You know, you use that word a few times, that you're constantly creating something that you want to give people the best. And in doing that, you prepare the experience, whether it's a Zumba class or your personal training sessions or your virtual sessions. And also during the parties that you DJ, the events that you DJ, you're curating. So you're keeping that person in mind. And that's 100% intentional living.
Mary, we could talk about this for 24 hours
I
more.
know.
There's so much. You know what's really resonated with me? I think it was a Maya Angelou quote where she said, "People won't remember what you say to them, but they'll remember how you made them feel."
Right.
That is like one of my life mantras.
Mhm.
I think about that with everything that I do. So when I talk about curating experiences, it's about a feeling.
Mhm.
I want people to feel certain things when they associate themselves with what I've done or who I am. And yeah, I mean, we could talk about specifically my transition in my college career, but it's made me look at life objectively.
Mhm.
That was the first time I looked at life in a very different lens. And one of those things was realizing that life is a series of temporary experiences. You know, we have one day our lights are going to go out, and when we're in our rocking chair looking back at what we've done in our life, all we can draw back on are the experiences that we had moment to moment.
Mhm.
So to me, every day is really valuable. Every opportunity that I have to either teach a class or do a session or do an event is an opportunity for me to share an experience, a very unique experience with a group of people or an individual. And all we can do is draw back on the feelings that we had about that thing. We might not remember everything that happened, but we'll remember how we felt during that moment, and
Mhm.
it'll elicit some sort of response. So that I do everything based off of that understanding and that belief. I just want to say that.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing all of that. That is it for today, my friend. Thank you for being here. See you next time on Get Intentional with Mary.